There's a war on, and it is stupid.
Every detail that surrounds us is critical. Make no mistake, this war is for the very soul of all of humanity. The United States of America is at the center of it. It's becoming very obvious. We're in big trouble if we ignore this one critical fact. Get ready, folks, because as tough as it may be, this needs to be said.
They're all fucking nuts. All of them.
All right, folks, let's get into it. This is a very, very important topic of discussion. And boy, I feel like I say that a lot. It feels...
Because you have main character syndrome. You believe that you have a divine destiny and you have no humility.
Everything that I have been saying as of late feels critical, is critical, is substantial with respect to what we're facing every day, and it undoubtedly is becoming even more important as the days go by. I think that's because we are in the last days.
No, we are not in the last days. We are in the last days of the world that we all knew and grew up in, and we're entering a new world because you assholes decided that you had a religious destiny. That, ow, fuck, my brain hurts so much from all of this.
And when I see articles like this, it reminds me of a much bigger issue that we cannot ignore, and that is the fact that what we are dealing with here, especially in the United States of America,
is fucking mental.
America is very spiritual. Now,
it's mental.
I saw this column that was written in JNS. It says Trump.
For those who don't know, JNS is literally called Jewish News Syndicate, and they manipulate Christians in America to give Israel money and guns and stuff. I mean, you can't have these Christians be bothered to make sure Americans can see doctors. They believe that's communism. But get this, they're perfectly happy to subsidize health insurance premiums for Israelis so that Israelis can see doctors, but not Americans. Because what you do depends, and where you do it, depends on whether or not it's right.
Critics have a lot writing on the Iran conflict. And here's the thing that scares me about this, okay? I know he's referring to leftists. I know that he is referring to what people might call the liberal establishment.
Well, but we're leftists. We're not people now. We're just here to advance your story. We don't have any free will of ourselves. And we're all just trapped in your fucking delusion. I mean, just think about it. If there weren't Christians like this one, and there weren't Muslims like the Ayatollahs in Iran, and there weren't people like Benjamin Netanyahu, there wouldn't be a giant war. And I'm referring to people like him as in miserable sack of shit. I'm not talking about his religion or his country. I'm talking about him being a miserable sack of shit, independent of all of that.
But I also believe this is referring to people who believe they are standing on righteous and godly grounds. People who call themselves to be...
Oh, wait. That people who disagree with you and don't want this shit show can't stand on good, righteous, and godly grounds? What the fuck are you talking about? You know, I've been against Donald Trump ever since he basically started the birther shit. He was Obama's best little buddy until Obama became the president-elect. And it wasn't even 10 minutes after Obama became president-elect that Donald Trump started peddling the lies, the birther lies. And I was like, oh, this one, he's got bitten by the political bug, and there's no one competent in the Republican Party. He's just going to suck up all the oxygen in the room, and I was right. So I've been against him ever since he backstabbed Obama. He was Obama's best booster up until Obama became president-elect. Wasn't even sworn in yet, and then the birther shit happened. That's horrendously dishonest. But Trump is not only horrendously dishonest, and I didn't think that America would be served by someone as dishonest as Trump back then, when I was extremely religious, and this Jew even decided to be a Christian for a while. But you guys put an end to that by making Christianity a burdensome chore. Now, Donald Trump is incredibly impulsive. Here's an example of it, how he basically makes things worse for himself because he doesn't think.
At Real Donald Trump. If Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump.
So he starts out by threatening war crimes. First off, he invaded a country. It wasn't authorized by Congress. It's an illegal war. Then on top of that, he kicks over the hornet's nest, bites off more than he can possibly chew. And we're not done yet. He has done what this French general has described.
To move on a bit. He shot himself in the foot. He wanted to invade a country of the European Union, Greenland not long ago, and now his old friends whom he did not consult, which is cornered, especially the British, telling them, we will remember this, push, and now he need our help. Well, now he frankly can go fuck himself honestly. You go too hard, well, you ask for it.
He's an impulsive buffoon, and it wasn't even 30 hours later he posted this. He tacoed, and he tacoed hard.
Real Donald Trump. I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week, I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump.
Which he was trolled and trolled hard by the Iranians, and it hasn't gotten better for him. But I also opposed him because I was a huge fan of NATO and still am, and this is the kind of person he is.
The United States has been informed by most of our NATO allies that they don't want to get involved with our military operation against the terrorist regime of Iran in the Middle East. This, despite the fact that almost every country strongly agreed with what we are doing, and that—
No. They didn't agree with what you were doing. They might agree the Straits of Hormuz need to be open, but you didn't talk to any of our allies. You just go ahead and did it. You and Bibi decided to burn the world to the ground because you both had a bug up your ass and you both wanted to stay out of jail.
Iran cannot, in any way, shape, or form, be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. I'm not surprised by their action, however, because I always considered NATO, where we spend hundreds of billions of dollars per year protecting these same countries, to be a one-way street. We will protect them.
Oh, no. It's not a one-way street. The United States is the only signatory to NATO to ever activate Article 4 and Article 5. and to receive military aid against someone who attacked them. Fuck you. It's a defensive alliance. It's not an offensive alliance. They are under no obligation to come and dig you out of the hole that you have dug the entire world in. I am so sorry that any of this has happened.
But they will do nothing for us, in particular in a time of need. Fortunately, we have decimated Iran's military. Their navy is gone, their air force is gone, their anti-aircraft and radar is gone, and perhaps most importantly, their leaders at virtually every level are gone, never to threaten us.
And they basically replace those leaders. The missiles are landing all over in the Middle East. And it's not getting better. And all Iran has to do is keep the Ayatollahs and the mullahs in power. And that's their entire goal. They don't need a navy. They don't need anything but to make it horrendously costly to do a land invasion and to be able to lob missiles and shut down the streets of Hormuz.
Middle Eastern allies or the world again. Because of the fact that we have had such military success, we no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did. Likewise, Japan, Australia, or South Korea. In fact, speaking as President of the United States of America, by far the most powerful country anywhere in the world, we do not need the help of anyone. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Disgusting, isn't it? That's why I thought he was bad for America, and I never voted for him.
Right, in the name of doing the best thing for America, they are also categorized in this, and it is ugly. Look, many years ago, the issue was COVID. After that, it was what's going on with the church. After that, we started dealing with many, many other issues. The LGBTQ ABC 123 thing began to challenge us. We've been seeing challenges with transhumanism, and we can...
Oh, I wonder if he even knows what transhumanism is. Okay, so they were asked to wear masks during global pandemic. They responded by making videos of themselves coughing in the faces of the people who stock the shelves at the supermarkets. They were asked to get vaccines. They said, fuck no, let the bodies pile higher, I will not. And they don't seem to have a problem with Donald Trump and the fact that he did vile things to children on Epstein Island. People who cannot consent, by the way, but they want to tear the entire world apart over people, grown adults, who can consent. And what they do behind closed doors, i.e. LGBTQ, most of those people are consenting and with people who are of age of consent. And that's what we're talking about. People who are of age of consent and consenting. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Continue to see things show their ugly face, but perhaps what may be one of our biggest challenges to date has everything to do with Israel. And I know that so many people are becoming more and more fatigued talking about it, especially in the midst of a war that I think is continuing to go on. And let me just say this, I'm so confident.
You think it's continuing to go on? I know it's continuing to go on. It's fucking raging. And there's going to be a global food shortage because of this shit show. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Of that you are watching this 2 weeks after I am tracking it, okay? Very important to understand this. We are in a very critical place.
And you are watching this 2 weeks after his 2 weeks. So it's going on for more than a month already. And yeah, we're in a critical place. There's going to be a global famine. The world's fertilizer supply has been affected, fuel prices. It's going to be a shit show. And this all because of these people and their religious fantasies and them forcing us all to live inside of them against our will.
And we have to ask God to give us strength to open up our eyes, to recognize what it is we're dealing with, because you guys, this is deeply consequential. So,
oh yes, if there is a God, please show your followers they're being manipulated by assholes who just want money, guns, land, and by American oil companies who are benefiting extremely from this shit show, because Trump runs around and says, America doesn't need Middle Eastern oil. America produces its own oil. And yeah, America does, but it still costs just as much in America as it does in Europe, as it does in Asia, because of the global nature of the oil markets. America still has to pay through the nose, just like everybody else. Only thing is, the oil companies in America make record profits.
let me read this to you. I think there's a lot of good insight that this article has, but there's one very critical component I want to pull out of it, and you'll see it in just a second. Look what it says. Whether they admit it or not, a lot of people are rooting for disaster for the United States and Israel in the conflict that began on February the 28th, with the two allies attacking the Islamic Republic's leadership and military targets. And it's not overstating the matter to acknowledge that the diverse coalition of opponents of President Donald Trump and the Jewish state has a lot riding on whether their Cassandra-like predictions of doom for the administration turn out to be right. It's a heavy first paragraph.
I know it's heavy, and it's not like I want to see the world burn. Even if Trump gets blamed for it, I don't want to see the world burn, but I mean, it took hundreds of thousands of military personnel during the first Gulf War to dislodge Saddam Hussein from Kuwait and then to invade Iraq. And it took months and months of planning. And then when George W. Bush had his Oedipus complex and wanted to outdo his dad, it took hundreds of thousands of soldiers, months and months and months of preparation, about a year of lying through their teeth to convince people to let it happen. And then we invaded, we occupied, never really stabilized, and now you're talking about doing that to a country 3 times the size in every respect. It's always going to be a shit show. It just will be, because that's how things work out when you kick over a hornet's nest without planning. And I'm not saying Iran is good. I'm not saying their military is particularly good. I'm saying it's strong enough to inflict thousands of casualties and cost trillions of dollars and create a global food shortage and energy crisis and make the whole world pay for every inch Donald Trump gets of Iranian territory.
That he writes, it's critically true. But what's more important is to see what he's alluding to. And we've got to pay attention to this because it is absolutely critical. Look what it goes on to say. If they are, then the extreme right wing of the Republican Party, led by anti-Semitic podcasters like former Fox News host Tucker Carlson, has an opening that they would hope to use to take over the GOP. Which, by the way, I want to make myself clear. These guys are not right-wing people. They are very, very much left-leaning, okay?
Oh, fuck you. Tucker Carlson is one of the most conservative people on the planet. He hates paying taxes so much, he bent over on his knees before Vladimir Putin, being the spoiled Nepo baby that he was, ungrateful for all that he had, and he sold his soul to the Kremlin and drank Vladimir Putin's man milk by sucking his dick. That's very, very conservative when you betray your own country and Western civilization to get some money off your taxes. And he constantly retched about the destruction of masculinity and the destruction of Christianity and traditional values. Oh, he is
For
so
a lot of reasons, and
conservative.
we've talked about this, this is especially true of people like Tucker Carlson and the many other that have joined him in seeking out to destroy a lot of very innocent lives. Look what it goes on to say. A disaster in Iran will also put even more wind in the sails of the intersectional left-wing base of the Democratic Party. If that happens, its leading figures like New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will hope it means that their faction will be in a position to name their party's 2028 presidential nominee. And that is true. We could be seeing a repeat of what happened in Venezuela for a lot of reasons.
Fuck you. Fuck you, sir. Zoran Mandani and AOC are not full-blown communists like Hugo Chavez. See, there's something called bodegas. They're really expensive, yet ubiquitous around the city of New York. And there's a lot of people who are having a hard time eating. There's grocery stores that buy food in bulk in the way bodegas keep, and food is cheaper there because they pass part of that savings on to consumers. But land is expensive, so there's not many of them. And most people in New York City do not own cars. So getting to a grocery store is difficult. So what Zohran Mamdani wants to do is basically to fill a need that the private sector isn't filling. The GDP of the state of not the state of New York, but the city of New York is over $1 trillion easy. The real estate, just like if you sold Central Park, it would be worth more than $1 trillion. And the size of the New York City economy is just stupendous. It's not going to do anything. And AOC just wants Americans to have the same access to healthcare as Israeli citizens. Interestingly, you want America to basically subsidize healthcare for Israelis by making it so that Israel doesn't have to pay for its own weapons. It all comes out of the same pot, the U.S. taxpayer. The U.S. taxpayer gives Israel weapons and military aid, then the Israelis don't have to be taxed to do it, which means that they have more money for things like education and food and healthcare. So you support the exact same kind of socialism in Israel that you condemn in America. Fuck yeah.
And that is incredibly important for people to understand. Why? Because different nations, same enemy, same devil, same tactics. We have to look at it spiritually. Look what it goes on to say. Meanwhile, the somewhat less ideological veterans of the Obama and Biden presidencies, of whom the most prominent figure today remains former Vice President Kamala Harris, and their liberal press corps, rooting sections will also assert that their belief in appeasement of Tehran has been vindicated. So that is very true.
Oh, you're bitching about appeasement. First off, choosing not to invade Iran was not appeasement. It was a cost-benefit analysis. You could shut down the streets of Hormuz and have Iran lob missiles at the energy infrastructure that a quarter of the planet is dependent upon. And the rest of us will pay through the nose if it basically disintegrates. Or you could basically keep the status quo. And it was the status quo. There was no nuclear weapons going to be developed. And by the way, speaking of appeasement, you have no problems when Donald Trump does things like this.
Maria, to be clear, This is a coordinated effort. We had a break the glass plan across the administration and at Treasury. We unsanctioned Russian oil. We knew that there were about 130 million barrels on the water, and we created supply that is beyond the Straits of Hormuz. So we anticipated this. We knew that there could be a temporary, and I want to emphasize temporary, choke point there. And there was 130 million barrels of floating storage. In the coming days, we may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. So depending on how you count it, that's 10 days to 2 weeks of supply.
And they did unsanction Iranian oil. So you had no problem, basically, having Donald Trump, number one, help Vladimir Putin murder Ukrainians, and then help Iran sell more oil. This is the shit show. And you talked about same devil, different countries. For fuck's sakes. Vladimir Putin has his Russian Orthodox priests blessing Satan to missiles. And it's not like the administration didn't know exactly what they were dealing with when it came to Russia. I mean, here's Drunken Pete before the Republican Party figured out that it could have a campaign advantage through the Russians working for them for propaganda purposes.
An authoritarian who basically is saying, I want the Soviet Union back, I want Ukraine back, I want Kiev back. And then what's at stake is making sure we don't allow it to become an Article 5 larger, broader war than that. So equipping and supplying Ukraine with what it needs faster than we have, and we haven't been doing it. The Biden administration has not been doing it fast enough so that they can further bog Putin down and push him back. It's going to be long, it's going to be bloody, but I think those are the stakes for the United States of America.
So he was against Putin before he was for him, and here's what he sounds like now. Here's what Drunken Pete sounds like now.
The environment that Joe Biden created, which was depleting those stockholds and not sending them to our own military, but to Ukraine, which is every time we reach back and look at any sort of a challenge we have, it goes back to, well, send it to Ukraine. Ultimately, we think this should be these munitions are better spent in our own interests at this point, and this kind of funding bill is going to ensure that we're properly funded going forward.
So they had a choice, basically, keep the pressure on Russia or start a second war. And by the way, they always blame Ukraine rather than the orange monster that they put into power.
Got the Kamala Harrises of the world with the Otto Pens of the world that are going to say, you see, we had a better solution, and that solution was to allow Tehran to take people's lives, innocent people's lives, and allow...
You guys had no problems handing Ukraine over to the Red Army because your manga Mussolini was suckling and Vladimir Putin's cock to get Russia to help the Republicans win the election.
Allow Satan to continue to rule in a region like Iran, who cares about the best interests of God's chosen people, the Jews. These are very critical components that we have.
Whoa. Weren't you guys running around America first, America first? Who cares about our long-standing allies or crushing the Red Army? You didn't give a shit about that. Now you're worried about Israel, and don't get me wrong, I can sing songs in Hebrew, but that's not the point here. In fact, I despise what Netanyahu has done in Gaza. But that's not the point here. You guys are screaming America first, and now Americans are supposed to go without health care so that you can pay for these wars that Americans didn't want, Not even the MAGAs said they wanted him. So that Israelis can have health care and fight wars and be safe, but Americans are not allowed to be safe and have health care and education because you conservatives scream communism.
To pay attention to. Look what it goes on to say. Such a result will be a political landscape that will not only look bleak for conservatives and Trump supporters, it might also be a body blow to the last vestiges of what was once a bipartisan consensus in support of Israel that stretched across the American political spectrum. That's because the one thing that links various elements of the loose anti-Iran war coalition is hostility to, if not outright hatred for, the state of Israel. That is true.
No, it isn't true. You see, what's going on is you've guys been trying to do everything in your power to strip American Jews from the Democratic Party. I mean, it's been a propaganda goal of Russia and of the Republican Party and Benjamin Netanyahu. So anyway, Russia basically supplied arms to Hamas in October 2007. They used those arms and money to create a horrendous shit show where roughly 1,500 Israeli citizens were brutally murdered. Very, very bad. How does Israel respond to this? Well, I believe that Benjamin Netanyahu purposefully committed war crimes he didn't have to in order to get Muslims and certain parts of the American left to basically ask Joe Biden to stop supporting Israel. And they basically blockaded Gaza so that no one could leave and no one could come in. That means that people couldn't get food. And then they started carpet bombing civilians. And I think that's everyone's problem. The carpet bombing and starving of civilians. So, fuck you. And none of this would actually have happened. This shit show wouldn't have happened if certain people wouldn't stop lying. So there's going to be a part 2. I just want to leave everyone with this.
Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the rich uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit.